What is rheumatic fever and how does it affect our body, you might wonder. Rheumatic fever is a condition that develops following an immunological reaction to an infection by a bacterium known as Streptococcus pyogenes, usually around 2 to 4 weeks post-infection. This reaction starts with the activation of the innate immune system, which leads to the presentation of antigens to T cells. B and T cells then produce antibodies known as IgG and IgM, while CD4 plus T cells get activated. But here's where things get interesting. The immune response becomes cross-reactive, a phenomenon thought to be mediated by molecular mimicry. The cell wall of Streptococcus pyogenes contains a highly antigenic virulence factor called M protein. It is believed that the antibodies against M protein cross-react with myosin and the smooth muscle of arteries. This response then leads to the clinical features of rheumatic fever. In rheumatic heart fever, we find granulomatous nodules known as Ascough bodies. Now, diagnosis of rheumatic fever is based on evidence of recent streptococcal infection along with 2 major criteria, or 1 major and 2 minor criteria. Evidence of recent streptococcal infection can be established by a rise in streptococci antibodies, a positive throat swab, or a positive rapid group A streptococcal antigen test. Major criteria include erythema marginatum, Sydenham's chorea, polyarthritis, carditis and valvulitis, and subcutaneous nodules. The 2015 Jones criteria state that rheumatic carditis cannot be based on pericarditis or myocarditis alone, and there must be evidence of endocarditis. Minor criteria include a raised ESR or CRP, pyrexia, arthralgia, and a prolonged PR interval. Management of rheumatic fever involves antibiotics, specifically oral penicillin V, and anti-inflammatories, with NSAIDs being the first-line treatment. Additionally, any complications that develop, such as heart failure, must be treated. In summary, rheumatic fever is an immunological response to a recent Streptococcus pyogenes infection. This response involves a cross-reactive immune reaction that leads to the clinical features of rheumatic fever. Diagnosis is based on evidence of recent streptococcal infection and a combination of major and minor criteria. Finally, rheumatic fever is managed with antibiotics and anti-inflammatories, along with treatment for any developing complications.